Warning: the following content contains strong language and may not be suitable for children. This content is primarily for adults, as this is a trucking channel and truckers have filthy mouths. Please don't tweak if I say. Viewer discretion is advised.
Stay nice, same chair, same ground, right there. Turn it on, lean in close, this that. Welcome to the mark, the mentor show, where the plans turn real and the hustlers grow. Talk money, talk mindset, talk get it, let's go. If you came from the bottom, it's the road, you know. It's the mark, the mentor show. Every loss, every lesson, turn it all to gold. From the late night notes to the sold out goals. Say the name one time so the whole world know.
Whoa, the mark, the mentor show. Whoa, the mark, the mentor show. Whoa, the mark, the mentor show.
The mark, the mentor show.
Sweet.
What's up? Good afternoon. Come on in. Make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Turn on all post notifications and need a commercial insurance for your semi-truck, box truck, cargo van business. There's a link and a phone number in the description below for Log Rock up for renewal. Looking for an affordable insurance solution for your semi-truck, box truck, cargo van, just your logistics business. Link and phone number in the description below for Log Rock, partner to the channel. Come on in. Make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel.
Sweet.
Turn on all post notifications. How's everybody doing this Monday afternoon now? Let's see what we got going on in here, man. It's been a while. It's been a while. Make sure you hit that like button. Shout out to Eddie Kim in the building. Shout out to Pippi. Shout out to all the moderators. Shout out to SD Walk, MGM, and moderators. Shout out to Valise representing the MGM gang. Shout out to CTR Logistics representing the MGM gang. Who was this? Shout out to Joseph, Hickory, North Carolina, tuning in. What's going on? Shout out to Slick Turbo in the building. Shout out to Rudy in the building. What up? All right, so boom. Make sure you hit that like button. Turn on all post notifications. All right, so continuing the conversation from last week, as far as the 200,000, right? So it was a lot of people, believe it or not. There was, I think, one or two people that called in and expressed interest as far as the trickle-down effect and how that would affect people in the box truck business. There was also some comments that I seen in that live stream and some other videos in regards to the trickle-down effect. And, you know, I said we'd follow back up with the conversation next week because that was the last show that I did, which was Wednesday. All right, so here we are Monday, and let's follow back up. So we got a lot of stuff that's on the horizon. We got that, and then we also got the diesel thing. I kind of was going to tackle both today, but I'm pressed for time. I got a lot going on. So this week, I'm going to try to make the shows condensed because there's a lot I got to do and prepping for, and I just got to get in and get out. So we're going to have to condense things for the rest of the week, but we're going to try to get through as much as we can. So we're going to split the box truck trickle down from the 200,000 today, and then we'll cover the diesel tomorrow because I'm curious to kind of see also, which I already knew it was a bluff. I already knew they weren't going to fall for the bluff. I mean, these guys is, you know, they'll blow themselves up. So I don't think they really tripping on no 48-hour threat. These dudes will jump in front of a missile and say Allahu Akbar. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what that was about, but we'll deal with that tomorrow. All right. So let's, how's everybody's weekend going? How did everybody's weekend go? You dig what I'm saying? Let's get that out the way. Hope everybody had a good, prosperous, safe weekend. I see a lot of shit going on in the world, man. Just don't get distracted, man. Don't fall into a lot of these distractions that, you know, society and just the powers that be are putting in front of you. Don't fall into the distractions of your peers. It's a lot of ignorance that I see on the internet. I'm thinking about going black on I don't really want to be on Instagram, but I'm thinking about just getting rid of it. I don't really have no use. I don't really need to use it to promote my YouTube. I really don't care if like I really don't care, to be honest with you. The more I go on there and find myself, scrolling, I just see some of the most heinous things, the shit people are willing to do just to get noticed. Is just to me, it's just I see why a lot of these young people get depressed. It's depressing just looking at some of the shit people are willing to do just to get some clout. So I don't know, bro. But anyway, nonetheless, shout out to FJC, first time catching you live. The past week I've been watching your videos. Just want to let you know that I have learned a lot from your videos. Thank you. Appreciate that. Shout out to Stunner Man Clevo representing the crib. All right, let's get into it. All right, let's talk about the whole trucker thing, the 200,000, because everybody's concerned. Oh my God, they're gonna come into the box truck. So I'm gonna pull up one of the latest articles. I want to read through it, and then we'll break this latest article down. A lot of these articles are written, with bias. The media is kind of split in half now, so you got to kind of understand what you're reading, how it was written, who wrote it, and then formulate your own opinion. All right, so this is the latest article. This is obviously released today. Then they came for the immigrant truckers. I want to read this, and then we're going to go over what I think after processing what has happened. Trump strips commercial driver's license from 200,000 legal immigrants who bring your goods to market. So we already know how this was written. We know what side of the aisle this is written from. Just from using our context clues, just from our critical thinking skills, where it says 200,000 legal immigrants who bring your goods to market. So they're weighing on a consumer's feelings and emotions to push you to a certain side. All right. Like working on a farm, driving a truck is far from most rewarding occupation, which is why both industries are chronically understaffed and need immigrants to fill their ranks. Last week, in the umpteenth instance of its privileging the xenophobic rage of Trump consigliere Stephen Miller over the needs of American people, the Trump administration banned roughly 200,000 truck driving certified immigrants from any further truck driving. The new rule from the Department of Transportation forbids refugees, asylum seekers, and recipients of deferred action for childhood arrivals, otherwise known as DACA or DACA, however you want to say it, DACA, from obtaining commercial driver's licenses, and forbids those who currently hold such licenses and renewing them. So we went over this Wednesday. 200,000 truckers didn't just lose their license off rip. This is going to be like a slow bleed over the course of weeks, months, and years, right? So if you're an immigrant, if you're an asylum seeker, a refugee, a legal immigrant under DACA, and you have a current CDL, when it expires, you cannot renew it, right? So that all depends on when your license expired. You just won't be able to renew it. So this is a process. This didn't happen just in one swoop last week. Some of the affected drivers have gone to court to see if they can get that rule overturned. In California, a suit filed by Asian Law Caucus and the Sikh Coalition sought to circumvent that rule, but they won only a brief stay that has already expired. The state itself has contested the ruling while it was still pending, as had New York, Pennsylvania, and other blue states, arguing that the federal government had issued work permits to all those affected by its ban, but it has found no recourse to implementing the rule. California had been signaled out by Trump Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy as foremost miscreant state for having most immigrant Albert certified truck drivers on the road, vowing to withhold $160 million in appropriate transportation funding if it failed to comply with the ban. State reluctant compliance came complete with a protest from the Department of Motor Vehicles. All the vehicles issued non-domicile CDLs by the DMV had been granted work authorization by the federal government and were legally present in the United States at the time their license was issued. While a recent court ruling now allows affected individuals to submit a new CDL application, the federal government is barring the DMV from processing these applications currently. Given that the DMV is compliant with state and federal law, it is incumbent upon the federal government to allow the DMV to process those applications and issue licenses to eligible drivers. The number of California truckers estimated to be deprived of their licenses by the new rule is 20,000. 13,000 have already received notices from the DMV stating their licenses will be canceled. Nationally, according to a 2023 study by the Department of Transportation, 15.7% of licensed commercial truckers were immigrants. In some critical niches of the nation's supply chain, however, that percentage is much higher. A 2021 survey of the drivers who pick up the imported goods at the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach, which receive roughly 42% of all the goods coming into the United States, transport them to huge distribution warehouses in the Inland Empire, showed that 67% of drivers were immigrants. There's a clear reason why the trucking workforce relies on immigrants. The jobs are arduous and low paying. The average year take home pay arduous and low paying. It means it's tough, tiring. Home LA port truckers, according to a survey by the UC Berkeley Center, is munificent $28,000, which comes complete with no benefits, whatever. In 2018, the Bureau of Labor Statistics put the median income of all long-haul truckers at $53,000 for those who were employees of 45,000, and 45,000 for those who were independent contractors, often mislabeled as such by their employers, Amazon, FedEx, most particularly as a means to save those employers money. But both groups had to work well more than 40 hours a week, that much. As I noted in the article in the trucking industry that I ran, Prospect 2022 special issue on supply chains, confronted with jobs that take them away from their families and require long hours for low pay and scant, if any, benefits. American truck drivers don't stay truck drivers for very long. A 2019 study by the University of Minnesota economists Stephen Burks and Kristen Monaco of the Bureau of Labor Statistics found that the annual turnover rate of long-haul truckers is a breathtaking 94%. All right, so this is something that we talk about all the time. Turnover rate is high. Obviously, the work, like the article says, arduous. It's something that we talk about. I talk about it specifically as it pertains to household goods moving and final mile, but also as a long-haul trucker, a person who goes OTR. In today's time, it's considered arduous. It's considered tiring. It's just something that most people in today's time are just not willing to do over a long period of time, like individuals in previous generations in the previous decades would. It wasn't ever thus. From the late 1930s to the 1980s, while New Deal legislation that established industry standards was in effect, and while the Teamsters had been able to unionize more than half of the nation's long-haul drivers, truck driving was among the nation's higher-paying blue-collar jobs. So, like I kind of, talk about all the time, I always go back to like the boomer generation. I always talk about what, the industry was like prior to deregulation. We look at it from an economic perspective. The cost of living and what you would earn in a job like this, that gap wasn't as wide as it is now. Obviously, with inflation and so on and so forth, the cost of living and what a person earned, the earning wages aren't increasing and scaling at the same rate or a close rate with the rate of inflation. It's way different than it once was. If you looked at the live stream the other day, we looked at the chart. The rate of the cost of the earnings was like right here on the chart, and then the cost of inflation was like right here. So it was kind of running concurrent almost. And now that gap has widened where, inflation is scaling way faster. The rate of inflation is growing way faster than wages. All right. So it's almost like a day and night situation from it was, prior to, let's say, 1980. From the 1930s, okay, I'll pick up. Following the 1980 deregulation of the industry, however, union membership, wages, and benefits all crumbled, according to the BLS. So let me just talk about that. When deregulation hit in 1980, before deregulation, the government regulated the prices, which was really, really good. You know what I'm saying? You got an honest day's pay for honest day work. The government controlled it. But as a trucker, if you owned a trucking company, you also controlled the route. You didn't have to worry about competing. For instance, let's say if you had potatoes was the commodity that you moved, and let's say you had a route from, let's say Chicago to Memphis. So regulation with regulation, the government dictated the rate. It was a regulatory agency, what was called the ICC, not to be confused with the ICC in Illinois. The Illinois Commerce Commission was the Interstate Commerce Commission, and they regulated the rate. So now, if you had a route, you own a trucking company, and you had a commodity, you moved potatoes from, let's say, Chicago to Memphis, only you were authorized to move that commodity, for instance, from Chicago to Memphis on, let's say, I-55. So you didn't really have to compete. The government controlled the rates, and it's just what it was. When deregulation came in, it brought in free market, free enterprise, which was smart. You had some truckers that wanted it. You had some didn't. The ones that didn't, they understood the effects that what happened down the line, which is what you're dealing with now. But you had people who just didn't factor in the effects of free market and free enterprise, right? Once you open the floodgates for competition, obviously more competition drives down rate. It was a good play for the government because, hey, let's open up the market, free enterprise, people competing to suppress their rates, right? And that'll keep the cost of goods down because transportation cost is baked into the cost of the things that we pay at the register retail. So as a consumer, and I always try to, get people to understand, like, not only are we business people, but we are also consumers. So from a consumer aspect, competition is good, right? Because this is what keeps costs down. If the shit was regulated, you would be spending a lot more on everything, right? So competition keeps the cost down. It saves you money as a consumer. From a business aspect, it's a little bit different, but you got to understand what you're investing in. If you're coming into something that's free market, free enterprise, and probably capitalism as it pertains to trucking, I mean, this is capitalism at its finest. You got to know what you're dealing with. All right. So according to BLS, by 1998, drivers were making between 30% and 40% less than their pre-1980 predecessors had made. And the share of unionized drivers had dropped from a pre-1980 high of 57% to a roughly 10% it was at the start of the decade. So obviously, after deregulation, truckers were making 30 to 40% less than when it was regulated. All right. So you may think that taking certified truck drivers who have all been granted federal work permits off the roads in the industry that has 94% yearly turnover may not serve the common good particularly well. You may also think that it is a gratuitous crime to harm the fortunes of those drivers and their families, not to mention an act of malignant folly to jack up the prices of the goods. This will come late or go undelivered without immigrant drivers to take them to their destinations. If so, you'd be right. All right, so let's look at this from a business perspective as far as how it will affect box trucks. Make sure you guys come on in, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on all post notifications. We got 25 likes in the building. We got 62 people, and we only got 25 likes. It's about a little over a third. Let's get those likes up to about 50%, and we can continue on. So CDL truckers, all right, coming out, where do they go? All right, I think a lot of people are just jumping the gun is thinking that they're going to all go into box trucks. All right, that's furthest from the truth. They're not. A lot of these guys, let's look at it like this. We got to look at where the majority of the immigrants are. And I didn't look this up, so let's look it up now. We got to see where the majority of these people are. Are these guys company drivers? What percentage of them are company drivers? What percentage of them are independent owner operators? We need to look at that first. We can't just say, "Oh, well, they're going to come into the box truck business." So let's look at it from that perspective. How many let's say immigrants, asylum seekers, or DACA CDL holders are company drivers versus owner operators by percentage. Let's see what statistics say. All right, so number over 720. Yes. While comprehensive data specifically divide this group strictly by company drivers versus owner operators, limited reports indicate that foreign-born drivers are heavily concentrated in long haul, which we know in regional freight sectors, often working for carriers. All right, so and that's kind of what I thought. So most of them work for carriers. All right, so now that we got the statistics, even though it doesn't have the breakdown specifically by, well, approximately 200,000 commercial truckers are classified as non-domicile, including many asylum seekers, refugees, and DACA recipients, represent 5 to 8 of all CDL holders. Concentration in specific critical freight areas such as ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach, up to 67% of drivers are immigrants. So in that concentrated area in the port, 67% of those drivers are immigrants. All right, so owner operators, while overall owner operators make up roughly 11 to 16% of the general trucking workforce, the percentage of immigrant, DACA, and asylum seekers driving operated as independent owners is likely higher as specialized port drayage, but lower in long haul as they are not eligible for traditional SBA loans. So most of these guys, like I figure, are company drivers. They're company drivers. So now we look at it like that. All right, boom. As their CDLs expire, where do they go? All right. So I'm going to be honest with you. The first place that I think they're going to go, and it's not going to be the box trucks. The first place that these guys are going to go is to gig work. They're going to go to gig work. Most of these guys that are illegal immigrants, asylum seekers, are not owner operators. They're not business people at all. They're workers. So it just a person who's driving for someone else under strenuous conditions for low pay is not going to lose their CDL and go straight to a lot or straight to Penske or Enterprise or Ryder, put a down payment and jump into the box truck business. They're not business people. They're going to transition into what they can start generating revenue immediately. And that's gig work. Now, this is me processing this since last Wednesday to present this to you. This is not me guessing. This is not me, assuming. This is my opinion, but my opinion is based on, the statistics. We're looking at how many of these guys are actually business owners versus workers. These guys don't speak English. These guys lack resources. And just like when I just looked at how many are actual owner operators versus company drivers, even the intelligence said, yo, these guys aren't qualified for a lot of stuff. If you're illegal. Right. So a lot of these guys are going to go to gig work. I think that's the first thing that they are going to infiltrate. The next thing that I think they're going to infiltrate from a business perspective, right? So we got the guys that they lose their CDLs. I think the trickle down effect is going to go to, because they're still going to have their license. They're just going to have a regular license. Your things like Uber, your things like Lyft, your things like DoorDash, right? After that, the ones who have some type of business mind, I think they are going to go to the cargo van business. Similar to the gig, right? We're looking for something that can get some quick cash, right? So I think that the lowest cost of entry next would be the cargo van business. Why? No CDL required, obviously. Low startup cost, quick entry, some of these guys, they have been working for their bosses for, I don't know, when did Biden come in, 2021? How long has the border been open? Since 2021? Right? So some of these guys have been living on the truck. Some of them have been sending money back home to their country. Some of them have been saving money and sending money back home. The cargo van business presents the lowest cost of entry. They can do the gig work there. They're already accustomed to driving long hours. I'm not going to go into specifics as far as, some of the hacks that, a lot of these companies, there's some companies that are notorious here in Chicago. We're not going to go into specifics of how these guys run long hours and don't, adhere to the hours of service. Obviously, if you know, these guys are already accustomed to doing that. Expedited cargo van, it does that without having to adhere to the hours of service. So these guys are already used to that. It's quicker entry. We're talking about individuals who are in survival mode at this point. They're in survival mode, right? So we have to think, we just can't base things based on how we feel and what may seem right. We got to look at this the correct way. So I think after the gig economy, which would be the easiest transition for an illegal alien or an illegal immigrant or a migrant or an asylum seeker or a DACA recipient, right? Go gig. And then after that, maybe cargo van, right? The third wave, I think, would then be box truck, all right? Deliveries, routes, freight handling. Obviously, these guys, who once had a CDL, there is a percentage of them that are business people. The percentage of them that are business people is smaller than the percentage of the illegal aliens, the asylum seekers, the illegal migrants, the DACA recipients that are company drivers. It's going to be a downgrade for these individuals, but still they have the skill set, right? The skill set is the driving. They come from a business background of being an owner operator from a business perspective with a semi truck. It's a downgrade, but they still have the skill set. Those are the individuals that are going to come into the box truck industry. The majority of them are going to transition into what's quick, that's going to start bringing in revenue instantaneously, utilizing what they already have. And that's going to be gig work. And then I think maybe cargo van and then box truck. Not all of them are going to be able to survive within the box truck industry. And then the next tier is they're just going to exit the industry completely. Because a lot of these guys that came over here illegally that are company drivers, this is all they know. They got here, they got put on, and this is all they know. So to the people that are saying who are spreading FUD, you're just not thinking about things logically. Majority of these illegal immigrants aren't business people. They're company drivers for someone. How do I say this? I don't want to people getting their feelings and shit. You got the Russians. You got the Indians, right? It's one smart Russian or one smart Indian or a few smart Russians or a few smart Indians that speak the native language. It may be broken, but they understand it. They can speak it. They can hold a conversation. They understand business. They may come from a business background in their country, or they may have already been here legally. They utilize being able to communicate with the illegal aliens, the illegal migrants, the DACA recipients, the asylum seekers from their ethnicity, from their country, and employ them, right? They're employing them for dirt cheap, but yet and still they can communicate them and deal with them and pay them crumbs and have them work for them. They're in that network. There's a network. I remember during the period where, they were all coming over here and just going to Home Depot during that time period, 2023 and 2024. When you were going to Home Depot and be 300, I don't know, you guys are in a smaller market, you probably didn't get a chance to experience that. But here you would see hundreds of illegal migrants just in Home Depot parking lot looking for work, but they were segregated. The largest population was South Americans, right? They would be right at the beginning when you pull in. Then you would see the shade would get a little bit darker. You drive a little bit further in, and now you see all the Somalians, the Africans. They would be a group, smaller group, right? But the Venezuelans, the Ecuadorians, they had the mass. Then you would see like the Polish guys in their little area, you know, the Russian guys, and there was a small sector of Asians, and you had like the sector of Arabs. And I actually documented that when I was doing that roadie series. So you could see, and I kind of showcased how they were segregated. But so if I'm a let's say a person who's been over here and I'm a business owner, and a lot of immigrants have come over here from my home country, I can speak their language. I can put them on. I got the laws right at that particular time that are protecting me, and I can go. Those guys, they don't have that business mindset. They're just, I don't want to, I'm trying to figure out certain words to use because I don't, it's a word I want to use, but it wouldn't be politically correct, but you'd get it. These guys are just workhorses. They just want to make an honest living, and they don't care what they're going to do. They're going to do what you wouldn't do for what you wouldn't do to get paid. They're going to do more work for you, more work than you would do at a lower pay. You're not business people. So a person who is just a person who's just a follower, is just doing what they're told to do, making money and sending it back to their country and living on the truck, they're not going to get their CDL taken today and go buy a box truck tomorrow. The easiest transition for them is where you see a lot of foreigners also at the gig economy. It's easier for them to transition into becoming an Uber driver or a Lyft driver or a DoorDasher or delivering roadie or, you know, some packages, Amazon Flex. There's a big Somalian and African population that I see here doing Amazon Flex. Actually, from my understanding, they're the one who controls the bot, the whole bots for Amazon Flex. They're the ones who control the whole bot thing. So I think that's the first course of action that a lot of those guys go. So now as it pertains to the gig economy, those guys are going to be affected 100%. Then I think the cargo van. Then I think the box truck. Why? Because less of these guys are owner operators. The majority of them are work mules. I mean, I'm calling them work mules because they're doing arduous. They're doing very arduous. They're doing very a lot of labor for just very minimal pay. Right? So they'll come into that sector easily and just dominate. I think it's a myth. I just don't think. Now, the guys that do come into the box truck market, right? Who are they going to affect? They're going to affect the guys at the bottom. The guys at the bottom are always the guys that get affected. They're going to affect the guys at the bottom. They're not going to affect the guys at the top. They're not going to affect the guys that are in specialized places like household goods and final mile. They're going to affect the guys that operate in high capacity niches like load boards, over the road, guys that don't understand their cost, the guys at the bottom. The guys who rely on the load board, the guys who rely on gig loads, the guys who operate in desperation, who take desperation prices, these guys are going to affect them. That market is going to continue to get overcrowded, and just more capacity is going to drive into that. People that don't know their numbers, the people that are just out here doing the dun-to-dun. The people at the bottom of the totem pole are always the people who get affected, always. That's why I always say, well, why do you want to stay at the bottom? If there's something you can utilize this truck for that requires a little bit more work and you can make a whole lot more money, why do you want to continue to fucking, say I wasn't gonna cuss. Why do you want to continue to roll around in the mud? Why do you want to continue to roll around in the mud? The mid to high level guys, the guys who have contracts, the guys who do final mile, the guys who do household goods, the guys who have direct relationships, these guys are not going to be affected, if at all. The shit rolls downhill, doesn't roll uphill. So if you're in a box truck, I really don't think you have anything to worry about for all the factors that I just talked about. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We got 100 people in here. We only got 39 likes. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications. The shit rolls downhill. The people at the bottom are going to get affected. You're talking about people who don't speak a lick of English, who can't read the native language. It's the people at the bottom that are going to get affected. This is going to be your competition. If you can speak the native tongue and you're in this industry and you're already struggling, you are 100% going to be affected. If you don't know your cost per mile, you are 100% going to be affected. People who have systems, who have discipline, who understand capitalism, who understand capital management, people who have built relationships and understand relationship building, people who are in specialized niches will be fine. Now, let's look at it from the other side of the coin. And this is very difficult for me to do because, and I said I'm going to stay away from this because I know how people feel, but we can't, I'm going to let people, make their own decision. I'm just going to give you the shit to think about. If you are a person who's a capitalist, this could be an opportunity for you. If you watch me, I say there's always opportunity. There's opportunity when things are going good. There's opportunity when things are going bad. To be honest with you, and I know this may hurt some people's feelings, I don't care about fuel prices right now. Why? Because we were on brink of the situation that's going on. And if you were smart, you would be looking for the opportunity. You know that if this situation was going to happen, there would be opportunity in certain sectors. So you would position your investments into those certain sectors. The worse things get, the better it gets for you. So you kind of offset where you're losing at by putting your interest into things that make money during a time of crisis. So that you're just not losing, you're offsetting it. But if you were distracted and you were turning up and you were doing all the goofball, Jamal, dumb shit, then you struggling. And it may sound, harsh to some people, but if it sounds harsh to you, that means you're not thinking like a business person. You're not forecasting. If you know something is on the brink, then you need to start transitioning to where you can offset. Okay, if this happens and this is going to go here, where's the opportunity lie? So that I can offset my losses and potentially make more money in a time of crisis. So let's look at it from a business perspective. If you're a capitalist, this could be an opportunity for you. If a bunch of CDL drivers are about to lose in a slow drip, weeks, months, years, you're going to have a lot of people looking for driving positions. Now, where you are as far as politically, and I do not want to go down this road because it's a very sensitive road. Politics has become the most sensitive thing that I've ever seen. Politics and religion, bro. So, but we got to go down this road. Depending on where you land on the side of the aisle, this may present an opportunity, right? Now, I'm not saying, take advantage of people, but if you are a person who is looking to build a successful trucking business, box truck business, cargo van business at scale, one of the main issues that a lot of people have is talent, right? So, a lot of people fail because they don't know their cost, but let's look at it from a perspective of everybody's doing everything that they're supposed to do. They understand their cost. They understand their cost per mile, what it costs to run their business. They got everything going on the right path, but they just have a hard time sourcing good talent. They think they got good talent, but it's always the people they just don't want to stay out on the road long enough, or it's just always something. There's going to be a pool of an infusion of people who come into the market who don't care about none of that shit that an Americanized employee cares about. They don't care about coming home for the weekend. They don't care about coming home for spring break. They don't care about Easter's coming up. They're not caring about none of that. The only thing they're caring about is staying out, making money. Boss, more money, boss, more work, more work, boss. That's all they care about. So Here's an opportunity. You got a bunch of drivers. You're going to have an infusion of drivers over the next however many years on a slow drip. They're coming in that are going to be willing to work. So you're going to have an increased labor pool. If you're structured and you're ready to scale, this is an opportunity. Listen, you always got to find the opportunity in something. Always. If you're not a good business person if you're just, this is why I be so hard on the people who be complaining about shit, bro. And I try to help you understand, there's opportunity when things are good, there's opportunity when things are bad. Now is your time to find people. More drivers available. If you're structured and you're prepared and you're looking to grow, now is your time. So I don't think it's something to worry about. If you are a box truck owner operator, I don't think it's something to complain and bitch and moan. I don't think it's good news. I don't think it's bad news. I think, competition will get higher. I think margin will get thinner. I think rates will get tighter over a period of time, but it's only going to affect people at the bottom if you don't understand what it takes to run a business. If you one of these 100% of people that have called up over the course of however many years I've been doing it who don't understand their operation costs, it's going to be worse on you. If you're a person who understands business and you do everything in your power to ensure that you continue to go up and to the right, you're not going to let a situation like this, which I think is a minute situation, deter you and take you into failure. There's no way this would just bother me. Why? Because we're not operating at the bottom. Never have I. You enter in at the bottom, but your ambition should be to grow. If you come in at the bottom and it's a year or 2 years or 3 years and 4 years and you're still complaining, you're still at the bottom, then that's on you. If you want to continue to be a bottom feeder and have to deal with what bottom feeders deal with, that's on you. This shit rolls downhill. Anybody that has like a fish tank or aquarium, you got fish that swim at the top, you got fish that swim at the bottom, and then you got bottom feeders like plecos. They go through and they eat all the detritus at the bottom of the tank. They're tank cleaners. They deal with all the shit. When the fish shit, the shit just doesn't float in the fish tank. It falls to the bottom of the tank. The shit rolls downhill. You want to be a bottom feeder? You want to eat the shit like a pleco? Or goddamn a clownfish? Literally, not like I'm calling you a clown. That's the name of the fish. These are bottom feeders. They eat all the detritus at the bottom of the tank. Literally. This is a great analogy, but it's true. It's not funny. This is the real deal. But if you notice, the beautiful fish swim up. You got some beautiful fish that dwell at the bottom of the tank like frontosas. But that's because the oceans are very deep, and in Africa, where that fish comes from, it's thousands of feet under the water. So they don't swim at the top. But most fish that are at the bottom they're bottom feeders for a reason. Shit rolls downhill. And I know that analogy may win over some people's heads, but to people who understand, like, aquariums or have aquariums, and you get where I'm coming from. So I this isn't about immigration. I don't look at this situation like an immigration situation. I don't look at it like an opinion situation or a feeling situation. It's just the market, and it'll just increase some market pressure for people that are at the bottom. So you got to look at it like this. Are you looking to build a business, or are you just chasing loads? If you're just chasing loads, then you're going to always be affected. If you are in business a couple years and you just don't have relationships or you're not looking to get out the bottom, then you're going to continue to always be affected by situations like this. If you're an individual who is just a pessimistic person, who just doesn't understand business, who doesn't know how to look for opportunity in all aspects, I look for opportunity in crisis. I threw a free one out there, Palantir, up 23% since the war started. When we was on brink of it, we repositioned. Short term, 30%. I talked about it a month ago now, and go look. So I don't really care about fuel. That shit can go for whatever. Why? Because here, what's costing over here, we've already positioned things over here to offset where we're losing over here and be profitable. It's just like starting a moving business or storage facility business in 08, 09, 2010, 2011, 2012. Yeah, it's a crisis. But guess what? How can you put yourself in a position where or find opportunity in that crisis? Moving company, storage facility. Being able to forecast, understanding when you're in a bubble. Right now we're in a tech bubble. It's going to burst eventually. The people who get left holding the bag are going to be the losers. You got to know when to hold them, got to know when to fold them. You got to be able to read the market. That's it, bro. I'm not going to drag it out. I think it's pretty much cut and dry. The people who get it,